Okay, now it is time for the most dangerous twisted truth shared by Jim Palmer of all of them I have shared so far. If you love me, you will regularly attend a conservative Christian church and vote Republican. Jesus didn't say, because of course that's an impossibility. But beyond that, it points us toward a very large segment of the church in America that wants you to believe that they do indeed speak for Jesus and tell you that Jesus wants you to vote Republican. The statement would be just as ludicrous. They had said Jesus wanted us to attend a liberal church and vote Democratic. It's not that Jesus didn't care about politics, because he did, and he waded into it sometimes, but he always cared about people more. Recall how he once said, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and render unto God the things that are God's." That in no way implied that Jesus endorsed Caesar or that he approved of his ways. But I think Jesus knew that these two were very different in nature. One was about power and coercion. The other was about faith and love. Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, wrote a letter in 1802 to the Danbury Baptists saying that he believed that there should be a wall of separation between church and state. It had nothing to do with decorum. He feared that the state might try to shape and control religion for its own purposes. Or worse, that the church might try to control the state for its purposes. Either would be disastrous, and has been in the past. Better then that there be a wall between them, and each exist in separation from the other. Except, of course, they really don't, because we live our lives in both. I once decided to have a class on the social principles of the United Methodist Church, and because it was an election year, I also decided to see which party came closest to believing the same things that we do when it comes to our society. In the end, there was one clear choice: John Anderson. He had been a leader in the Republican Party once, but this year he was running as an independent. He got 6.6% of the vote against Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter that year. Thanks to me, I'm sure. Freedom of religion, and even freedom from religion, is baked into the First Amendment of our Constitution. But we are also believers in and followers of Jesus Christ, and that has shaped the things that we value in life, and our hopes and dreams for a more just society as well. The separation of church and state was never designed to become anti-religious, and that includes whatever religion you might be talking about. It is pro-religious liberty, and it protects churches from government control. It also protects the government from being dominated by any one belief system, which could use its power against other belief systems. This concept of a high wall was intended to become our shield, but it was never meant to become our sword, to wield undue influence over the government. Today, the legal boundaries between church and state still exist, but they are being tested. There are three models now. One favors the classic high wall. Government must remain strictly neutral. Public institutions should avoid religious symbolism or practice. The second one allows for some accommodation. Government may allow religious expression as long as it doesn't coerce anyone. And the third is really the integrationist model. The argument is that the government should actively support religious values, mostly defined as Christian values, of course, because they are seen as foundational to our national identity. Historically, we have been here before, skirmishing at the edges. In the 1830s, it was about supporting Catholic schools versus Protestant public schools. In the 1920s, there were fundamentalists versus modernist battles. And in the 1950s, there was a big uproar when "under God" was added to the Pledge of Allegiance. So today, should Bible stories be taught in public schools? I would ask, should stories from the Quran also be taught in school? Or should the existence of multiple faiths within the land of the free and the freedom of religion be taught in school. I think the latter is best of all. Conversely, should the church be actively engaged in local or national politics? Should a church ever be able to tell you personally who to vote for? Absolutely not. But that does not mean that it should remain silent either. For the old days, when parties had platforms and not just personalities, it was easier then to choose a platform that mostly agreed with your own, and then vote accordingly. The church, in a sense, has a platform and goals, and to a lesser or greater degree, those might either support or reject the stated goals or one of both parties. But the platform that matters is really the one Jesus has, and his platform is simple. If you love me, keep my commands. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love them and show myself to them. Our faith compels us to love God and also to speak truth, in season or out, and above all else to call on all people to love one another as God has loved us. Methodist theology has historically supported the principle of separation of church and state. It is rooted in both Wesleyan theology and American constitutional history. But at the same time, it has never embraced a separation that removes Christian moral witness from public life. We have a sort of dual commitment to both institutional separation and moral engagement. Bishop Easterling, who leads United Methodist in Washington, D.C., said churchgoers should resist both complete passivity in the face of injustice and complete co-option for political gain. Love cannot remain silent in the face of suffering, injustice, or dehumanization, she said. A gospel that does not move our feet has not reached our hearts. Yet she added, United Methodist should also remember the church does not belong to any one party or ideology. Our allegiance is to the reign of God, she said. When asked to identify ourselves, our first response should always be, I'm a child of God, long before we consider ourselves as Democrat or Republican, Independent, or any other lesser identity. If you really want to know the truth of the matter right now, the post-split United Methodist Church in the United States actually does lean more Democrat than Republican. But that is a broad trend, not a uniform rule. The 2024 General Conference, of course, removed bans on same-sex marriage and LGBTQ clergy, which would suggest that we are certainly more aligned now with the Democratic Party than the Republican Party on this issue and on many other issues as well. Most congregations, however, do not engage in partisan political activity at all, because we prefer the high wall. When people are being hurt, however, we will naturally move toward their side, because that is where Jesus is. Like the bishop said, love cannot remain silent. If on occasion that leads us to speak out against the state, then so be it, because that is us just being what a church should be, the conscience of a nation, not the mouthpiece of any party. Since at least 1989, whenever anyone joined the church, they were asked, do you accept the freedom and power God gives you to resist evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever forms they present themselves? We won't let you in unless you say, I do. In this struggle, we are not solely represented by any one political party, but we are always prepared to join the resistance when necessary to resist evil, injustice, and oppression by any party. The best way for us to anchor ourselves in the midst of these changing times is to remember that what Jesus requires of us is that we love him more than any party affiliation or church voting bloc. No other allegiance in our life, in fact, should ever be higher than that. To love him more than these and follow his commandment is what defines us as Christians. If you are a fisherman, Jesus says, love me more than your boats or your comfortable life. If you are a Pharisee, he says, love me more than all the books you have read and all the rules you try to follow. If you are a sinner, then he opens his arms wide and says, see how much I have loved you. Love me more than anything else that has hold of you. In short, Jesus makes it clear that our love for him should trump anything else in our life. Perhaps the world cannot ever accept him, but you and I know that loving Jesus and following his commandments is what will make us who we need to be. Be safe, and God bless you.